All right, let's talk about something that I think almost everyone in crypto is quietly asking themselves right now, but not many people are actually saying out loud. Is now a good time to invest in crypto, or should we be getting out? Because if we're being honest, this market doesn't feel clear right now. It doesn't feel like those moments where everything is obviously bullish and people are making easy money. And it doesn't feel like a full crash either, where you just stay away completely. It feels uncertain, it feels mixed, and that's exactly why this moment matters much more than people realise. Before we get into it, if you're new here, my name's Paula, and on this channel we break down what's really happening in crypto. Not just the charts, but the bigger picture, the macro, the psychology, and how this all connects so you can actually make informed decisions instead of just reacting to noise. Now, I want to start with the feeling because the feeling in the market right now is everything. If you've been paying attention, you've probably noticed it. The market moves up, then pulls back. News comes out, and half of it sounds bullish, while the other half sounds like the world is about to fall apart. You've got people on one side saying we're about to see a huge move to the upside, and the others are saying we're heading into a recession, liquidity is drying up, and risk assets like crypto could get hit hard. And when you sit in the middle of that, it creates hesitation, it creates doubt, it makes you question whether you should be putting money in or pulling it out. It makes you second guess your decisions. And here's the thing that most people don't realise. This exact feeling is where some of the most important decisions in crypto are made. Because if we zoom out for a second, this isn't new. We've seen this exact type of moment before. Back in 2020, when COVID hit, the market crashed hard. Fear was everywhere, uncertainty was at its peak, and most people were pulling money out, not putting it in. And yet, that moment turned into one of the biggest opportunities we've ever seen in crypto. Then again in 2022, when FTX collapsed, the headlines were brutal. Trust in crypto was shaken, people thought the whole space might not recover, and sentiment was incredibly low. But again, that period of fear marked the phase where the market was quietly stabilising before the next move began to build. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because the biggest opportunities in this space rarely feel good when you're in them. They don't feel obvious, they don't feel comfortable, they feel uncertain. They feel like you might be making the wrong decision, and that's exactly why most people hesitate. Now, let's talk about what's actually happening right now, because this is where things get really interesting. On the macro side, we're dealing with some very real global pressures. Tensions in the Middle East are escalating, and that's already having an impact on oil prices. There are concerns around supply disruptions, especially through key routes like the Strait of Hormuz, which handles a significant percentage of global oil flow. And when oil prices rise, it doesn't just affect petrol, it feeds into inflation. It affects transport, food, manufacturing, and the overall cost of living. And this is where it connects directly to crypto. Because when inflation rises, central banks are often forced to keep interest rates higher for longer. And higher interest rates reduce liquidity in the system. And when liquidity tightens, risk assets like crypto tend to struggle. Now, layer on top of that what people like Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, have been saying. He's openly warned that if oil were to spike significantly and stay elevated, it could push the global economy into recession. That's not a small statement, that's coming from one of the most powerful figures in global finance. So when you start to hear that, it's completely understandable to think that this might not have been the best time to be investing in crypto. But this is where the story starts to shift. Because at the exact same time that all of this uncertainty is happening, something else is happening quietly underneath the surface. We're seeing increasing conversations around how crypto assets should be classified, whether as commodities or something entirely new. We're seeing more alignment between regulatory bodies, and we're seeing traditional financial systems exploring blockchain integration more seriously than ever before. When you zoom out, this doesn't look like a system that's collapsing. It looks like a system that's being built while most people are distracted by short-term fear. And this is where the real divide in the market begins. Because In moments like this, people tend to fall into two groups. The first group is waiting for certainty. They want everything to feel safe. They want clear confirmation that the market is going higher. They want the news to align, the charts to align, and the sentiment to feel positive. But by the time all of that happens, price is usually already significantly higher. The second group understands that uncertainty is part of the process. They don't need everything to feel perfect before they act. They accept that there is risk, but they recognise that opportunity often exists before clarity. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people believe they are in the second group, but when the moment actually comes, they behave like the first. Now, let's talk about risk, because this is where a lot of people get stuck. When people ask whether now is a good time to invest in crypto, what they're really asking is whether it's safe. And the honest answer is that it isn't. But here's the shift that I think is really important. The biggest risk right now might not be investing, it might be doing nothing. Because if what we're seeing right now is a transition phase, if institutions are positioning, if infrastructure is being built, and if regulation is forming, then this period could be the phase where positions are built quietly before the wider market catches on. And by the time it feels safe, a large part of the opportunity may already be gone. Now, I want to be really clear here, because this isn't about blindly jumping into the market. This isn't about going all in or ignoring the risks. The risks are real. We could see further downside. Macro conditions could worsen. Volatility could increase. Crypto has never been a straight line, and it never will be. So, this isn't about certainty. It's about understanding where we might be in the cycle and making informed, measured decisions. And this is where it becomes less about the market and more about you. Because at its core, crypto is as much a psychological game as it is a financial one. Markets are driven by human behaviour, fear, greed, uncertainty. And if you don't understand how those emotions influence your decisions, you end up reacting instead of positioning. You buy when things feel good and you sell when things feel bad. And that cycle is exactly how most people lose. And I'll be honest, this is one of the hardest parts of being in crypto, especially if you're doing it alone. When you don't have people to talk to, when you don't have different perspectives. When you're trying to make sense of everything on your own, it becomes very easy to second guess yourself. It becomes very easy to let emotion take over. And this is actually one of the biggest reasons why we built the Crypto Wolf Pack. Not as a signal group, but as a community. Because what I realised through my own journey is that no one has all the answers. But when you bring people together, when you have traders sharing ideas, breaking down charts, discussing macro events, and even doing daily live streams together, everything changes. You're no longer navigating the market alone. You have people who see things you don't. You have people you can sanity check with. You have an environment where you can actually learn and grow instead of consistently reacting. And if you want to know the exact strategies we use in the Crypto Wolf Pack to make money in both the bull market and the bear market, we've made a completely free course for you. The link is in the description below. But coming back to the main question, is now a good time to invest in crypto, or should you get out? The honest answer is that it isn't a simple yes or no decision. This is about understanding the type of moment we're in. We're in a moment where things don't feel clear, where macro conditions are uncertain, and where narratives are still forming. And historically, those are the moments that tend to define outcomes. Because when the next phase fully begins, when things do become clearer, when institutions are fully positioned, when the headlines turn bullish, and when everyone starts paying attention again, that is when the majority of people enter, not before. So maybe the real question isn't whether now is a good time to invest in crypto. Maybe the real question is whether you are willing to take a position when it doesn't feel comfortable, because that's usually where the difference is made. If you got value from this, make sure to like and subscribe and let me know in the comments where you stand right now. Are you sitting on the sidelines or are you starting to position? Because I can tell you this, the moment we're in right now matters more than most people realise. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.